Hello, everybody. We want to say a very warm welcome to everybody that is joining us today. Thank you for taking your time out of the end of the day, the 1st of November. So celebrating new things, new month, towards the end of a really busy year, I'm sure, for most people. People have started becoming alive. We've had exhibitions and conferences over the last 6 months that trying to make up for the last 2 years of being inactive. And I really think that today we've got some really special people that are presenting. Rachel Berry is joining us from not McAfee, but McAfee. Small fee because they come with a small fee. So, a little bit of a thing there, but, McAfee's been around for a long time, and I know them from when we first just went from DOS into Windows the first time round, and everybody had these antiviruses. So I'm very familiar with the product, but I know that as the digital space has become a lot more aggressive from hacking and spoofing and phishing, and we're not talking about actual catching a fish at the seaside. We kept talking about people, getting your data. We've got a real great expert. She comes from the telecommunications industry as well. So we want to welcome Rachel to this event. Towards the end, what we're going to do is bring Yaron in, who heads up digital solutions, so that there's a panel. So please, in the Q&A section, please do ask your questions as you're going along. And thank you, Rachel. The stage is all yours.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for having me here today. It is a very important topic, one that definitely isn't going away. It continues to be more and more important, especially as we live more of our lives online. So cybercrime trends and customer concerns definitely tied together. We can move forward into kind of talking about what that looks like, right? So one of the things that we know, and probably you know yourself, is that people are spending a lot of time online, really the majority of their time. So if you look at it, it is 8+ hours in addition to work. So if you want to move forward with the presentation. So 8+ hours in addition to work. Think about all the time that you are currently working. What are you doing in your personal life thereafter, right? So what people are doing are digital financial services, things like online banking, doing those QR codes for menus and other things, right? All those different things are important from a financial perspective. They're also looking at buying things. So think about, there's 41% of people are buying things either daily or weekly on a mobile device. And what that tells us is that people are living their lives digitally whenever and wherever they happen to be. That's a lot of buying in a digital space. They're also doing a lot in the way of telehealth, right? So when we weren't able to go and visit the doctor, we started being able to do it remotely. That stuck around. So 75% of people have used a telehealth service in the last 12 months. And the additional thing is working from home. We all were working from home during the pandemic. People got really used to that. We love it and we want to keep doing it. That's why 74% of companies plan on maintaining some sort of remote workforce. That means these folks are accessing their things digitally via the web. So as you move forward, clearly the more time online, hackers are very, they take advantage, right? 400% increase in cybercrime since the pandemic began. Like they are very smart and they're very sly. And so they're moving forward. Looking at it on a daily basis, 3 billion, with a B, 3 billion phishing emails are sent every single day. 24,000 malicious mobile apps are blocked. Remember, we're talking about how many people are using their mobile devices. That's a lot of mobile apps where people are trying to falsify and gather your information. And also nearly 7 million accounts are hacked every single day. It's a major issue and it's only going to continue to get worse, right? So when we start looking at the types of things that are growing. So this first section here is all about things that were already in place, but that we're seeing a big growth in it. So scams. Tech support scams, 347 million in 2021, which is an increase of 200 million as compared to 2020. Phishing, always a big thing. You talked about phishing at the beginning, not like, the rod and reel, but phishing in over, it's 2021 grew by 82,000 to 324,000 victims of phishing. Data breaches, the number of breaches was slightly lower, but they were bigger. And what you may be hearing around the globe, it's not just small companies. There's some major, massive companies around the globe that have been fallen victim to data breaches. One of the most recent ones that may be close and near and dear to your hearts is in Australia. Optus was recently breached, and that has the entire country in an uproar right now going, oh, wow, this is really real, and we've got to take steps. So password stealers, passwords. 60% increase in the number of unique devices that had a password stealer detection has grown 60%. Malicious extensions and Chrome-based things that people are doing, they have these extensions, they add them in, and really all it is doing is stealing your data. And Internet of Things, right? So little things, they don't have a display. How could they be stealing your data? Well, they do, because a lot of those devices come with default passwords and people don't change them. And so hackers can very easily get in and take over your refrigerator or your information on your cameras, right? Those kinds of things, very, very scary. So these are things that were in existence before, but have been growing over time. There are also a couple of very interesting new things that are in the emerging space. So Android for Windows, being able to create these Android malware that's specifically for the subsystem is becoming available for everyone. While that is developing, again, hackers are always looking for the latest and greatest opportunity to steal your information, trying to outrun the protections that we put out in front of them. And so that is a big area that is on the rise. The other thing is this concept of deep fakes. So if you're interested, you can send me a note. I found a very interesting video of a news article on a gentleman. He's an actor. He pretends to be Tom Cruise. Actually, he looks a lot like him. But deep fakes, if you're not really familiar with that concept, is being able to manipulate photographs or videos more like in an artificial intelligence sort of way. This guy has this technology that covers his face and makes him look exactly like real Tom Cruise. And so he can move and he can say, he can do things as Tom Cruise that look incredibly real and are very difficult to find out. So you have a lot of these things where people are going into and creating like sextortion cases, making you in very difficult situations per se, and then blackmailing you to say, hey, you're going to get into a lot of trouble for this. So that's another big area that is really emerging, something we have to worry about. So as we move forward, the question is, what are people now feeling about this? So we kind of talked about the cybercrime trends, and we also wanted to talk about what human trends are. So historically, it was all about the device. You need to protect my device, ransomware, viruses, and the like, and that is actually still incredibly important. But other things have risen up to be equally as important to people. So privacy and identity. 85% still want to protect their devices. 85% want to protect their online identity, right? 84% want to take back control of their data that's been captured or taken online. And 86% of those want to keep their online activities, transactions private and secure. In addition, when we start looking forward to the next slide, privacy and identity concerns can take several forms. Again, a lot of high percentages, right? Because again, very, very important to people. But 80% are concerned if a company is looking to sell their data to another company. Clearly don't want that to happen. 76% are very concerned that their information is going to show up on that secretive, confusing, dark web. 79% are concerned that their financial information is going to be compromised. I mean, you want to bother somebody, hit them in their pocketbook, very, very concerning. And 81% are concerned that that identity is stolen from an online transaction. So you can imagine it's holiday time, you're out doing your shopping, you find a really good deal on something, it seems a little hinky, but yet you still buy because it's such a great deal, but you're saying, oh, I hope this is not a bad site, right? You're just crossing your fingers. So you don't want your identity to be stolen in that situation. So the question is really, now all these things that are happening, the trends that are happening, people's concerns that are happening, how can you protect yourself? And it's this idea of being wellness in a digital space. So what does that take to do? It takes a holistic solution. Like we talked about, it's not just one type of attack that people are being vulnerable in. It's all over. The first half of it is proactive protection, right? Trying to do some things in advance to make sure that you are protected. One of the first things is regaining that sense of control over your own privacy and your data. Things like a VPN that would turn on automatically to protect you. So you're at a coffee house, you're trying to do whatever you're trying to do, bank, because you're out living your life and you haven't made a coffee house and they have an unsecured network. You can do these VPNs, especially if you're doing banking, where it'll come on automatically and create that encrypted path. So nobody's being able to watch you, nobody's being able to steal your keystrokes and then have access to your data. The idea of an account cleanup, right? So imagine all those different profiles that you created over time, that one-time parking app that you had to do, but you had to set up a profile. Maybe you have a MySpace account, things that you have all started, may no longer use, but never, you might have said, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, but you may not have reclaimed your data and said, no, you can't have it anymore. Getting that data back. Identity theft monitoring, I think a lot of people are familiar with that. It's getting those notices if your information shows up on the dark web. So really, again, regaining that control, that sense of self and protection for your own privacy and data. There's also still network and device protection. We talked about that before, but making sure that you're addressing all of your operating systems. It's not just PCs, it's also Macs. I mean, we always like to be protected in that space, and Apple does a great job for a lot of things, but you can still be breached. Again, it's a market where people are trying to get into that space because you feel protected, and maybe you're not always 100%, but all your devices. So PCs, Macs, tablets, mobile devices, both Android and iOS based. Again, we don't live our digital lives in one space. You kind of have to protect all of them. Identifying risky websites. They are very, very smart. So we talk about deep fakes, but you also have these websites that are spoofed that look exactly like your banking site or something you would recommend, but you may have just slightly mistyped it. That is an information they're trying to spoof so they can gather your information. Want to make sure that you are identifying those and protecting yourselves from ever going there. And then blocking malware, ransomware, and viruses. So in addition to this, there's this whole idea about educating yourself. I don't know if we can advance the slide, just one more. Very good. Phishing emails and attachments. So learning to recognize what those look like so that you don't fall prey to them, learning to question them. Again, we talked about unsecured networks. Really, what does that mean when you go to that cafe and says this is not a secure network? Understanding that that means people can see you while you're online. And then password uniqueness and strength. So that's one of the things that we all struggle with. I even saw a meme that was quite funny, really, because it was so humanly true. It's like, I just don't have one more password in me. Like, I just can't do it. So, but it's still incredibly important, because if they can find your passwords, they can stitch together all of the information that you have and take over your accounts. My brother-in-law's Instagram account was taken over this last week. They changed the password on him and now he can't get in. So making sure that they're updated, and a password manager that can really give you those really tough, unique passwords so you don't have to remember it is always quite helpful and important. The second piece of this, though, if all of that preventative work doesn't protect you, because things do slip through, 95% of breaches are caused by human error. So again, we as humans, we just sometimes make mistakes. It's getting you back to whole. So it's this idea of restorative care. It's removal of those digital dangers like viruses and malware and ransomware. If they do get on your devices, you need to protect yourself. Secondly, getting your identity restored. So fraudulent unemployment claims, here in the States, we have Social Security numbers. This last summer, someone stole mine and tried to do an unemployment claim, and I had to go through that rigmarole to try to get myself. It's very invasive. You feel very attacked when it happens to you. I can speak from personal experience. And even things like home title transfers, like they're basically trying to steal your home or buy a home, but with your credentials, making sure that that gets protected. And then finally, making sure financial restoration happens. So if you do get breached, being able to do credit freezes so that people can't go and open new credit, getting your credit score repaired. right? If they think it's you, they don't know any different. And so your credit score falls, your reputation is at stake. That's not awesome. And then financial restitution. So if you are out money, being able to get back whole if you've been breached from that perspective. So with those two pieces coming together, McAfee on the whole has really seen that holistic thing grow, not just from that device security, as I mentioned before, but also it's growing over time to protecting you as an individual, but also protecting your family. And as we already talked about, now this idea of your home. So it's all of that. And it's being driven from that over time and a lot of research to get us in this concept of protecting your whole home, your identity, and your family. So looking at McAfee's specific holistic protection and what some of our business opportunities might be, looking at it is our vision, right? So over time, we have historically been extremely well known for device protection. And now we've seen through research, through people's understanding, how they use the internet, how they feel about security. Well, they know it's really important. They don't always understand it. They need a helping hand to make it contextual. So we've been working to redefine security so that people and their families can enjoy life online, both freely and confidently without worrying about being attacked and putting themselves in a negative space. Strategy that we have, and you go ahead and click one more, is creating protections that matter. Intelligent protections that are dealing with the concerns that humans have to prevent those risks and to fix it when it's necessary. And also with personalized experiences. It's contextual. Like I said, if it pops up and says, hey, this is a risky site, do you want to turn on your VPN? Yes, do you want to do that? Just making it simple so that you don't have to think about it in the moment. It makes it easier and less bewildering, and so that you can help protect yourself. And again, for people and their families, protection that provides that peace of mind for everybody in your space, so that you know that you're cared about from a technology perspective. Anything that you're worried about, you can feel comfortable moving forward. And that's been McAfee's strategy based on a ton of research and how we've evolved our business to take it forward to really maintain relevancy and to make sure that we're moving in the right direction to protect people. We have a lot of partnerships around the globe, especially in the ISP and mobile space. And as she mentioned when she was introducing me, I spent a decade or two working for Verizon in the telecommunications space. So I know this industry incredibly well, and I know how well they're connected. When McAfee has been able to partner with all these partners around the globe, is we have specific experiences and groups, and especially myself. Literally, I'm the global director of partner success. My team's responsibility is to ensuring that our partners are successful. We're the only ones who are really set up that way to be able to bring success to our partners, and it kind of shows with all the partners that we have. Looking at partners to make sure that they are helped to pivot and grow. So one thing that we've really noticed over time is our partners have moved really away from just purchasing a product to reselling it, to also focusing on their customer experience, their customer service, really working to protect their customers. There's a lot of competition. Being able to have that connection with your customer base is incredibly important to retention. So the things that we've seen, especially when it comes down to working with McAfee and our product set, is that McAfee can help to open up completely new revenue streams, right? They have an ecosystem expansion opportunity to expand into spaces where you haven't necessarily been before. And the idea of attachment, attaching new products, attaching existing products, but through additional value of adding McAfee there, it helps to drive revenue in that space because people are buying more, and it helps you to be creative. How do you bring that to market? We've also seen, just looking at trends in the space as well, is the importance of investing in digital stores, making sure that that online purchasing opportunity is really, really strong, and then focusing on cost and efficiency, making sure that you can bring great solutions to people in a really cost-effective and efficient way to help drive the most ROI for your businesses. And then looking at it from an omni-channel perspective, because people buy and live their lives in a lot of different ways. And we need to be able, as businesses, including McAfee, is to recognize that when people are coming in and stitching all of that together. So omni-channel, definitely a priority as we move forward in the world. One incredibly important thing to note is that the space of cyber risks, cybersecurity, cyber protections is really continuing to grow and expand. We already talked about that, right? We are living our lives in a digital space, and it's only going to become more and more that way, especially as we start talking about the metaverse. I mean, it's already out there, but living our lives as this singular digital persona as we move through different places online and do our business there, that's incredibly important. What I wanted to share here is that total addressable market is still massively underpenetrated right now. There's a lot of opportunity to get your piece of the pie when it comes down to protecting customers and driving your own revenue. 13 billion in 2020, give or take. The forecast is looking at 19 billion by 2024. Huge revenue opportunity. Again, talking about it from a holistic cyber protection perspective. So protection of your devices, protection of your privacy, protection of your identity, and having that be a singular solution. So the thing that's important about McAfee is that not only do we recognize how this is moving forward and that people needed all these protections, what we've done is created a singular, holistic, all-in-one solution, so people won't have to pick and choose. They have one thing that they can interact with to make it successful for them. Again, it's just easier. Number 3, investing in marketing and branding. So we have tremendous effort, not only in rethinking and how we want to be from a protection perspective, but also rebranding with that in mind. So we have a stronger, even more important brand than what we did before, and products on our roadmap that are delivering significantly more value to the end user. Again, it's easy to use, it's valuable, and it's places that people are really wanting and needing to be. And then 4, making sure that we're very agile and we have a lot of different ways that we can do business models with our partners. So it's not just cookie cutter, it is very customizable, and we work with our partners, again, working with each of our partners to make them successful in their space, being able to use our resources like my team as much or as little as they want, and also our product set to help them be successful. So.
Wow, that was amazing. I think you've put some really key aspects in, and there's a few questions that have started filtering through. So I just wanted to check if Yaron is up yet, and here he comes. There he is. Hey, Yaron. Welcome to Yaron as well as part of the panel that's going to go through some of the questions. So pop your questions in the feature there, the question feature. And Yaron is now just going to talk a little bit more about how DSG and McAfee have actually got the relationship going this side. Yaron, can you hear us?
I can hear you well. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Great. So we're very excited about the partnership with McAfee. I think as a business that's focused on helping other businesses build an integrated cybersecurity strategy, McAfee was definitely a missing piece for us in terms of protecting the consumers in their homes. And we work with a lot of telcos and ISPs that are very interested in adding value to their customers over and above just connectivity. And as Rachel mentioned, this is really a great opportunity in the African market. Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what the audience has to ask and filter any questions that they have about DSG or McAfee or the solution that was presented by Rachel.
So we do have a question. What is the first step to taking action? So if you had to choose, what would that first step? Because we're all, we have a million things probably running on our computer. You've got Windows, if you've got all these other little things. what would that first little step be towards securing your identity better, would you say?
So from my perspective, it's a little self-serving, is get the McAfee product, right? Put it on, because what it does, it is holistic. So it will start to scan your devices whenever you get them installed. It gives you the opportunity to very easily set up things you want to have monitored, like your bank accounts and your credit cards and anything that you want to have done. It will help you walk through the process of getting yourself set up. And then it will start giving you feedback and tell you very easy ways you can help to start protect yourself. But the first thing is getting yourself that protection, getting past any fears that people may have, like, oh, I know I need to be protected, but I don't know where to start. Step one is getting the product that's going to be able to help you be protected.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to add that I think that passwords are really important. The way we use passwords is really, really important. And a lot of the time, awareness around security and being more vigilant with not using the same password more than once, making it a difficult password so people don't have access to your identity, and getting better awareness around cyber training and cyber security training. For example, we find that at corporates and with consumers, phishing simulation really helps, because there's just so many phishing attacks these days, and so many emails look like they're identical, and there's just one little pixel that's changed on the email, and it's not easy to see with a naked eye and pick up. So just getting into the habit of also being more cautious online and with your passwords, with the way you handle email. If you're unsure, rather don't click. So try and keep your posture as secure as possible by being cautious, optimistically cautious online, if you'd like, because when we launched digitalmall.com in the late 90s, every fourth transaction in South Africa was a fraudulent attempt. So you can imagine how you have to build your defenses, and then you almost got to correct and make it more user-friendly for people to actually sign up with you and do business with you. And you've got to be careful to find that right balance between like people, process, and technology. And I think that making yourself more aware of what's happening in cyber, we've got some great courses and some good training that we can share. That will help you become more aware of cybercrime and be more vigilant when you're online using your identity.
That's great. So I see a comment coming from Andrea that says South Africa are the third most hacked nation in the world for the last 5 or 6 years already. So that is like a no-brainer. It's like going, okay, you need, specific things, guys, because I know I get emails consistently, whereas even with LinkedIn. So as someone who's a specialist within the LinkedIn space, some emails even look like they come from LinkedIn. But if you just take a little bit look and what Yaron was saying and go a little bit, dig a little bit deeper, then yes. So one of the questions was, how do you make sure that the password you choose is a strong password?
So you could use a tool like LastPass, which is a password vault that will generate difficult passwords for you. Even Apple these days offers you to generate more secure passwords, and I think there's a huge awareness generally. So it's not just having to use LastPass, but we distribute LastPass. It's a great solution for enterprises to adopt and for consumers. There's a freemium version, and it will generate a secure password. It's linked directly into your browser. Either you can come up yourself with a secure password, or you could get an auto-generated one that will have generally caps, lower numbers, different signals, and some sites even ask you to enter a password that's more than 12 digits long, because they don't want the password to be too simple for the hackers to attack. And as you know, Lean, 80%, we've spoken about this before in webinars, 80% of hacks are actually due to bad password management, or using the same password over and over again. And then Facebook gets hacked, and all of a sudden the hackers have got exposure to your passwords and your credentials. They try it with a company way of doing it, and they get through. So really being conscious of using difficult to replicate passwords and making it very difficult for the hackers to guess what your password is. And don't use the same password more than once. Try and use different passwords for every single site that you're using. Make it unique. If you can't remember it, get a password vault, get some free software or premium software that will help you remember all your passwords, will be linked to your browser or to an app, and try and use as much multi-factor authentication as well. So even if somebody does get hold of your password, if they don't have access to your phone, they still can't get into the server or get into your confidential information. And that's quite easy to use, and there's lots of different MFAs available. LastPass obviously offers multi-factor authentication built into the system as well.
Awesome.
The other thing I would add to that is be very careful, especially, you mentioned Facebook. So you always get these really fun surveys and things that say, oh, give all these information, like, you talk about your dog, how many pets do you have? What's your pet's name? And people will fill them out because it's fun, but really all it is a lovely way of collecting all of your mother's maiden name and your first pet's name, all those things that people often use as their passwords. So one, remember that when you're filling out those fun surveys, and two, make sure you're not making your passwords based off that type of information because it's more easily found.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think that's something that I think you see a lot, especially the older generation. They love to go those little quizzes and find out more about what if you were born in July, what is your favorite, what are all of those little, it's very keen. I thank you for highlighting that, Rachel, because I think it's something that does get missed, particularly on social platforms. There is another question that was raised. You mentioned sextortion. How do we keep our children safe?
So, Rachel, you want to get this, or do you want me to jump in? Okay, I can jump in quickly. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure Rachel covered this. McAfee's got this amazing parental control feature that allows you to limit this kind of browsing capability, even on YouTube and on Google. You can manage it directly from the parental control panel. And I think it's really worthwhile for parents to invest time doing that, because these days, it's so easy for kids to just get distracted while they're online in games, and there's just so many ways of trying to capture information. And I think it's really important that you do deploy parental control. I, for example, try and limit the amount of time that my daughter's on the internet. They're not young anymore, but I still try and get their attention over dinner at least, so I switch the Wi-Fi router off, and then they immediately run to me, and say, wow, what's going on? Is it ESCOM again, or is it a power failure, or is it you switching it off? And I switch it off just to get their attention, and I think just generally being conscious about how we use, the internet, which sites are available and not available, just like you wouldn't let your kids under 18 buy porn magazines. You don't want them to be exposed to all these different sites and then, give false credentials to be able to get in, or do things that they shouldn't be doing. So I think it's quite important to be able to manage that, and the parental control feature is one of the most loved features on the McAfee suite. It's really, really awesome. It's easy to manage. You've got the portal. It's not difficult to deploy. It just takes a little bit of time and a bit of effort to think about what you want to block and how you want to block it. And obviously we have tutorials and guidance, and we can help customers to get that right through the 24/7 contact center from DSG. Yeah.
Great answer. Great response.
So
and also,
I have a
little questioning when you start, if that shows up from somebody else, you're like, there's a good chance it may not be real. So it's also a little bit, in addition to that, just the mindset of just because you see it does not make it real. That will help with the blackmail piece. So
yes, absolutely. Also, just because it's on Facebook doesn't mean it's true, or just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. But here's another question to answer or that I'd like to answer, that you can block the Google and the YouTubes and all of that, but what if it's now on WhatsApp? How do you then via their mobile device restrict that kind of content coming through to your children?
So the McAfee's got a mobile client, right, for Android and for iOS, and you can control that, because that's the device you will access in any event, so you can control it through total protection on your mobile device. We call it MMA internally. It's the mobile client, and it's a really great way to be able to filter content. If something arrives in WhatsApp, you could report it to WhatsApp as abusive content and get that person blocked. You could block that person, so your kids never actually get any messages from that particular person, but you still essentially do get spam, but it's about how you manage it and how you actually control it. And these days, I think with POPI in South Africa, the Protection of Personal Information Act, with California Act in the US, GDPR, you have a lot of recourse as a consumer to be able to block sites and be able to opt out of a relationship very, very easily and be able to block it and make sure that you don't get this content again. And you can do quite a bit of content filtering as well, as I mentioned already, on McAfee, on the mobile client, on your mobile device, as well as on your Mac or PC.
Awesome, thank you. And I think there's another question that's with regards to mobile devices. So with a mobile phone, one uses a fingerprint login, and one gets to forgets that you did that fingerprint enter password. How often should you change the fingerprint?
Well, I think that fingerprint is quite a unique identifier. And whenever you use biometrics, whether it's facial recognition or fingerprinting, you don't need to change the fingerprint. You don't need to change fingers all the time to be able to use different fingers. It's not that necessary because your finger's got a unique minutia on it, and you can use the same one. Passwords, on the other hand, are generally also, I have one of these MacBook Pros that come with the fingerprints built into it, and I find that you still use passwords sometimes for extra authentication. So it's either or, it's either the fingerprint or the password. I would recommend to change passwords once a month, at least, okay? If you suspect something has happened or you were under attack, then I would even do it sooner than that. But the fingerprint, I think it's quite a unique identifier. It's difficult to emulate a facial recognition or fingerprint, and you don't need to change your fingers all the time if it's uncomfortable for you. I don't think that's as important. You have got a unique identifier there, so that's why people use that as a multi-factor authentication, because it's unique to you and it identifies that you are really who you are. The multi-factor authentication helps from that perspective. So that's my view. I don't know if Rachel wants to add anything.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect.
100% on your test, Yaron.
Yeah.
There's a question. Well, there's a statement from David, which also is part of the McAfee team. I think he says, I think Yaron has touched on a point there. Our customers aren't stupid, they're distracted. So it's tough to be vigilant 24/7. So McAfee services offer the help and protection for those moments when we're having those not enough coffee days and not thinking enough and braining enough days. So that's perfect.
Yeah, and also a distracted attention, I guess, because we deal with so many different devices, and then we're in a rush, and then we don't pay attention to what we've learned. And it's only human to make mistakes. If you can have a good AV like McAfee blocking all these mistakes or helping you not make those mistakes, then it's almost like additional insurance. And that's why McAfee in the US offers a reward when you do get compromised. And we're looking to do the same thing here with insurance as well, include cyber insurance, because things will go wrong. That's why we actually called our business Digital Resilience, because we want to help our customers become more resilient. But we're not saying that an attack is not going to happen. An attack is sometimes inevitable, especially with some of the new zero-day attacks and WannaCry, that you don't have solutions that are available for them. It might happen, but at least you are aware and you kept your data safe and you can manage the incident and you can become more resilient in case an attack happens. Yeah.
Super. There is a question from Dan, which talks to a previous webinar that we did on LastPass. So we talk about the passwordless future solutions, and the user doesn't have to know the password. So if you want to just briefly cover that, Yaron.
Yeah, so this leads to the point that I made earlier around using multi-factor authentication. So if you're using facial recognition and you can't remember your password and your password is in a vault, okay, you could still use facial recognition without remembering what the password is. It recognizes that you are you and it gives you access to your vault, and then you can look up your password and then enter it into the site. Or what LastPass does automatically, it's actually built into your browser. There's a plugin into your browser and it automatically pre-populates that form with you. You just click on the little LastPass icon on your browser and it'll automatically do that for you. It's available on the mobile apps that way as well. And you literally never have to remember a password again. Let Password Generator generates secure passwords for you automatically and import them. And what you're doing is you're just managing the upkeep managing to update those passwords on an ongoing basis, but you literally don't have to remember passwords. You can just use your face to pay, use your face to log in, use your face to do different things, or your fingerprint for that matter.
So I think there's a unique challenge in South Africa, particularly with our many cultures that we have in South Africa. So many of our Black folk actually wear wigs. And, you know, even in training and things, I've always said that, you know, if your wig actually changes sometimes how your face looks. So sometimes if your dog starts barking at you after you come home from a haircut, it's because the recognition might not be the same. So it's also just taking that into consideration. So remember your password just in case the face doesn't get recognized the next morning.
Absolutely, or use fingerprints in that case if you're going to change your on an ongoing basis.
Change your hair color and everything else. You know, lots of comments around, you know, cybercrime insurance and, you know, people putting access to passwords if someone passes as part of your will, you know, as in that person can then access your accounts and whatever and close them, etc. So, you know, there's those kinds of things that people are just mentioning as part of, you know, the information that they're sharing. So thank you for that. I don't think there's any other additional questions.
Next to my crypto dongle. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any other questions that's come through. I haven't seen anything particularly from a question perspective, but I think everyone's gotten some really amazing content and some value from the session. Yaron, I don't know if there's something.
Question will be with us in Cape Town next week at AfricaCon. You want to mention our details? There we go. Yeah, perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, so yeah, we have a stand at Africa, well, Tech Africa, AfricaCon next week in Cape Town. So do pop in. There will be a number of people at the stand that can help you kind of set you up and just kind of discuss your current challenges and, you know, enjoy the networking opportunity that seems to have arisen over the last few months again. And, you know, like the world has come alive. I love it because I see on LinkedIn, you know, been at this conference, been at that conference. It's kind of, my whole feed is filled with people and I love it. So I think it's really amazing after 2 years of kind of, oh, it's only been online, you know, now we're moving into in person. So it's been amazing. Thank you very much, Rachel, for your time. I know it's early morning on your side.
Thank you.
And thank you, Yaron, for some insightful answers. I think we've got some great content and ideas. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at DSG, our website, dsg.co.za, and definitely, you know, digital resilience as well, .co.za. And we're looking forward to more sessions. We have one more session of this building digital resilience series, and that's in 2 weeks' time. It's on LinkedIn already, so if you want to go and have a look and go and peek what the next webinar is, kind of just finalizing the last part of building a digital resilience within your business. So have a super evening, everybody.
Excellent. Thanks, Arlene.
Okay.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
All the best. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.